Hi everyone, it's Faith Revell from the Valdez Museum, and today I'm here to teach you how to make portraits. Perhaps it's a portrait of yourself, a self-portrait, or perhaps it's a portrait of your family. There are lots of ways to create a portrait. Here is a portrait of my sister Charlotte and I. We're dressed up in old long gowns we found in my mom's closet. Here's a wonderful portrait by a very famous painter named Modigliani. He's Italian, and he's famous for creating long necks on his subjects. Back there is a portrait, and that's a portrait of me, and you're going, I'm not sure that looks so much like you, but it looked like how I felt. I think I was happy. I may have just finished teaching an art class at the museum. And that's how I felt. And our portraits are going to be more about how we feel and what color we feel like on any given day. Why portraits? Because I've been at the museum and your beautiful work, including portraits, is on exhibit at the museum. And I'm talking about Valdez City School children. Do you know the museum is back open to the public on Tuesday through Sunday from 12 to 4 o'clock. You could come for a visit and see your work. So, we're almost ready. Let's get started. So, what will you need to make your portrait? Well, you'll need some paper, and I've cut my paper into a few different sizes. Oftentimes a portrait is in this shape, taller than it is wide. And my paper is kind of thick, so that might work for your purposes. Here's a paper bag. You could paint on a paper bag or an old piece of wrapping paper. Any kind of surface that will hold paint and won't ripple and curl too much will work perfectly. Then you'll need some paint, and as you can see, I've picked a few different choices on my old dinner tray that I got at a yard sale in Valdez early on. You only need maybe one color, but this gives me some options to paint. You'll need some brushes, sometimes a wider brush, which works really nicely to paint, a little bit of water, and ultimately you're going to need something to draw on over top of your paint. And maybe it's a set of oil pastels or a marker. Let's say you don't have those paints. You can use tempera paint. You could use watercolor. You could use crayons. All kinds of things that you probably have at home to paint. So I'm going to try. Notice I'm not going to get my brush super wet. I'm going to set that aside. And I think I'm going to start off with a little yellow. Yellow is a very transparent color. So when you put it down on the paper, dipping my brush just a little bit, it's going to tend to let a lot of light through and white through. In other words, it doesn't cover the surface super well, but you know, I don't care. I'm good. And I'm going to paint this very loosely. Can you see how it varies somewhat? So there's my yellow. Dip my brush out. Oops, I think I said I also have some cool paper towels. Whoa, I think that's always good. And a big splatter. Now I got yellow hair. I'm going to try a little green here. And I'm using acrylic paint today. Yeah. Oh, I'm just going to paint a little more green. You can mix colors too. Yellow and green would make a yellow-green, a brighter, lighter color. Here's my green, okay? So, what color do you feel like today? What expresses you today? It's kind of a overcast day in Valdez, Alaska. Maybe you're indoors or out. Maybe you're having a wonderfully happy day. What color would you choose today? Pick one and guess. Orange. Notice I'm cleaning my brush because I'm using the same brush each time, and I tend to wipe it off here Gets all the residue out, although I can see that didn't really work very well. So I'm going to shift my brushes, and this time I'm going to paint a little blue. Maybe it's a rainy day and I'm feeling blue, and I've decided I'm going to swirl my paint around rather than up and down. So right from the start, I'm going to think about being circular or round. And you may say, you know, Faith, you're not being very detailed, but what I am is being expressive today. I'm putting that paint on like I feel like putting that paint on. You know what I mean? So now I'm going to make a little family portrait. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to put a little block of color in a row. I've got a long sheet of paper here. I'm going to start with a little bit of an orange. Rinse my brush off. I think I'll go to blue. It's got a little leftover green in it. Got kind of watery there. Whoops. Not too much water. The thinner your piece of paper, the harder it's going to be for that to hold that water without buckling and beginning to stretch and the like. So, not too much water. I'm just using it largely to clean my brush. Follow with a little green. And then I think I'm going to finish up with a little bit of red. My red's kind of thick, and I'm using a big wide brush. Depending on what brush you use, you're going to get more definition and more brush strokes than another. So here my beginning of my family portrait. My family's going, what? I'm back. I've let my little painted backgrounds for my portrait dry, and I'm going to start off with a green portrait. And this one already suggests to me, I don't know if you can see it, a lot of hair and maybe a profile portrait. In other words, the person's looking in that direction. So here I go. I'm going to choose something to use to draw with or paint with that's a contrasting color. In other words, black would go well on the green. You'd be able to see that, whether it's a marker or it's a brush and some black paint. Let's try some black paint. Oh boy, here we go. I'm going to try this. And I see this is going to go like this. A hair. If you can see this. And then I'm going to have an eyelash come out here. And a nose. And a mouth. You can begin to see the portrait from the side, and then I'll just make her hair. She's got super long eyelashes, doesn't she? A little more definition in those bangs, I think. And maybe something that suggests her neck. And there's a portrait. She looks quiet and a little pensive, don't you think? And she has green hair. Wowie zowie. Let's try another one. This time, I'm going to use a marker and choose something blue. And if you remember, when I put the blue on, it was all squiggly and wiggly. So I'm going to get crazy. And I like sometimes to draw with both hands. So I'm going to try this with my left hand, and I'm going to follow. Oops, let's see if this works. Oops, my marker's not very good. No, need a bright marker. Here. Hair up, wild. And can you see? A little tricky. Gonna see how her eyes. portrait. So I followed those kind of wild background lines and made this very, very loose. Look what I have. This is my towel that I cleaned my brushes from, but it reminds me of a portrait, so I'm going to try that. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this in a way so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to give this person a bow. To start. Then I'm going to make an oval because most of our faces are basically oval shaped. I think I want her looking, or him, looking off to the side a little bit. There's the eyes, a nose that I'm going to drop down. And a wonderfully smiling face. This person's got dimples. They've got ears. And I think they may need earrings, like really wild earrings. And a neck. There's my person. Can you see it? That person looks quite happy, I think. I hope that's how I find you today. And if not, I hope your day changes. I notice the sun has come out today. And you think about portraits. You know, in this time of uncertainty, it's a great thing to check in with one another and see how we're doing. So this might be a fun activity for you to do with your family. Ask them, what color do you feel like today? And then do a family portrait. And maybe they're feeling cheery. A little less so you need to give them a bit more love or a hug. Oh, maybe they're just feeling like, I'm feeling full of myself. Maybe I made this one black. I made this one a square. They look like they feel like dancing. Maybe those are short legs and feet. And this person's feeling kind of off to the side. Be well, prosper, connect with one another, make some portraits. You know, this is a great activity you can do with your friends, your family, or by yourself. Get to painting, make art. It makes all the difference. Bye!